So this is the thing about a new coach. You have to build the base. If you're building a house, and that's what I think the Vikings are, they're building a house. When you build a house, first thing you have to do is lay down the concrete base. And so if you have a basement, you're laying down the rebar and then you're laying down the concrete. So you got to build the rebar frame for your basement. And I think that's what the Vikings are. That's why you're seeing run plays. You're just seeing the communication getting in and out of the huddle. Like that's going to be the key, is the communication in the huddle. Kevin O'Connell to Kirk Cousins. Can Kirk Cousins get the lingo down? Can he get it to his guys in the time he's supposed to? Like, can this be a timely get out the huddle in time to see what you have to do? My guess is Kevin O'Connell's going to want him out the huddle with at least 20 seconds to 18 seconds to go so that he has time to, mess around and do some stuff to see the defense and not come to the line of scrimmage like we've seen in the past with 7 seconds. And then it's a all mad dash to snap it. And then you don't have time to call out the blitz or change the protection. This is my thoughts with Kevin O'Connell and why he has to differentiate himself from Mike Zimmer. Kevin O'Connell has to be different. He shouldn't. It's not like he could. He has to. He has to be different. The reason being, if you do everything that Mike Zimmer did, if nothing changes, one, the fan base is going to lose it. They're going to be like, look, we're literally doing the same things. And we're getting the same results out of this quarterback. So the quarterback is the problem. It's not Mike Zimmer. He has to be different, because if he doesn't, then it's going to be like, oh, this is the same thing Rick Spielman did. He didn't get the right offensive line. Kirk Cousins is under pressure. It's the same thing. Why did we waste all this time getting a new coach, firing a coach that probably could have got our defense great, because our defense was great? He has to be different, because if the defense is just as bad as last year and they're 25th, and they can't get back up into that, like Steve Weiss said, they got to get back up into that 15-16 range. If the defense is middle of the road, their offense will be top 5. So if their defense is middle of the road, and not middle of the road meaning like subpar, just don't fall far behind in third downs, stay up in that top 10 third downs. Overall defense, stop in the run, force them into passes. He has to be different, because then people are like, well, why are we bringing an offensive coach and our defense was the problem? We are making it out to be the offense was the problem and our defense is the problem. So Mike Zimmer could have got that fixed with maybe some healthy guys and some new pieces. He has to be different because the 3-4 versus the 4-3. He has to be different because of the passes. So we think about Kevin O'Connell, and this is where I go with this. Kevin O'Connell and Kirk Cousins are going to be the key. You look at Belichick and Brady. You look at Byron Leftwich and Brady. I mean, of course, Brady's the nexus. You look at Drew Brees and his coach out of New Orleans and Sean Payton. You look at Sean McVay and Jared Goff even. Jared Goff was subpar and he got to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Then you look at Sean McVay with Matthew Stafford and it looks awesome. Like Matthew Stafford said, it was like getting a new iPhone, on his new AT&T commercial. It's like getting a new iPhone. You love the old iPhone. It did just fine for 10 years, but hey, that new iPhone is just a little bit better. It's a little bit shinier. It's a little bit faster. It does a little bit more. Processes a little bit better. That's where Matthew Stafford is looking about trading. He's making jokes about his trade and what happened. So when you trade Kevin O'Connell, I don't want an iPhone 8 anymore. We've seen what the iPhone 8 can do. We've seen what Mike Zimmer does, which is pay attention to the defense, barely recognize the offense, not really like his quarterback. That didn't work. So now what Kevin O'Connell is going to do, because he's a quarterback, he's a former player, like Steve Weiss said, he covered the Rams. Kevin O'Connell is that dude, as he called it. He's that dude. He looks like a player, acts like a player, can relate to a player. Kirk Cousins, 4,900 yards with the Commanders in 2016, 4,000 yards in 2017, 4,100 yards in 2015. With the Vikings, the last 2 seasons, 4,200 yards and 4,200 yards. Big difference with the Vikings his first year, probably better coordinator situation, 2018, 70% passing. TD to interception ratio, last year, 33-7. Passer rating, 103. Kirk Cousins is just fine. Kirk Cousins is good. Kirk Cousins just doesn't get any respect. Kirk Cousins is the Rodney Dangerfield of Minnesota sports, of national sports. He doesn't get respect. He is Rodney Dangerfield to some people. He is a star. He can get it done. Kirk Cousins just needs somebody to mold him. You guys saw, what's her name? Demi Moore with the clay. Like, you have to have somebody like Kevin O'Connell is going to be what's his name, Sam? The guy that was behind Demi Moore, the ghost.
I'm not a movie guy.
Is it Kevin something? Not Kevin Bacon. But man, they'll put it out there. The people know. But the guy in Ghost, why am I blanking on his name? But he was behind Demi Moore, helping her mold the clay. Now, he was a ghost, but he did it. Kevin O'Connell is going to be the ghost on the field that's going to mold the clay with Kirk Cousins and make this offense become a nice piece of pottery. And that's my take on this, man. Like, Kevin O'Connell is going to be better for Kirk Cousins. When you think about third down efficiency, you think about helping him in and out of the huddle. You think about helping him understand and seeing the field and seeing what he said. Somebody, Dan Orlovsky said, man, some of the best coaches, Darius Butler said it, Ryan Clark said, some of the best coaches are backup quarterbacks. Star quarterbacks aren't great at being coaches because they are so good at greatness. They don't know how they get it done. They just get it done. Whereas the backup watches, learns, listens, and understands why they're great and why this guy is great. And they're actually coaching the number one guy when he comes off the field. He's like, look, this is what I saw. This is what you saw. What'd you see? What'd you do? They are good at that. That's why backup quarterbacks tend to be coaches in the NFL. I mean, that's why the stars go to the booth, because they can keep talking about it, but they probably can't tell anybody. They probably can't help anybody get better. They can talk about it and why this play is happening and what should happen, but coaching somebody up, Ryan Tannehill already said it. I don't want to mentor this guy. Brett Favre said it. I don't want to mentor Aaron Rodgers. That's what stars do. They don't want to do it. I mean, I heard stories about Bon Jovi walking into rooms just saying, no, yes. Why? Because he can do that. Like, if you just say no and everybody stops, you're going to keep doing it. And that's what stars do. They don't go out and coach. They just play. Kevin O'Connell was a backup. He was good at it. He watched it, and now he's a great coach, and he's going to get Kirk Cousins to where he needs to be. Sam, that's my thoughts on what's going to have to happen with Kevin O'Connell versus Mike Zimmer. I don't know. What do you think?
So you said it. Kirk Cousins is good. Kirk Cousins is not great. I reserve that for Aaron Rodgers. I reserve that for Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. So there are levels to it. Yeah. So can Kevin O'Connell get Kirk Cousins closer to great? Because he's been good. No one's ever argued that. And he shows glimpses even maybe of greatness. Can we get that at a more consistent level? And the Vikings honestly haven't changed a lot, about their offense, except for who the coach is. I mean, the running backs are going to be the same. The wide receivers are the same. The offensive line isn't going to be too different. The quarterback's the same. So what's the variable? It's Kevin O'Connell. He has to be the difference that gets this offense from where it was last year into the top 5 or top 10. Yeah. That is critical. And I think it comes down to a little better, run pass balance, using Dalvin Cook a little more responsibly so he stays healthier, making sure Justin Jefferson doesn't get overlooked, finding creative ways to get the running backs the ball in space. Like, there are a lot of ways, I think, to get this offense into the great category. And it does fall on O'Connell, I think, to be the difference.
Yeah, and to pay off the tease for everybody that stuck around, thanks for sticking around. Patrick Swayze, Dirty Dancer. Patrick Swayze played the ghost with Demi Moore. I could see his face. I kept saying Kevin Bacon. It's not Kevin. It was Patrick Swayze.